Hello! Today we're going to be looking at the format and tools of the performance task of the SBAC. What is a task? Think of a task as something you need to do. For SBAC, your task is to read the sources and write a response. Here is a sample task of the SBAC. The task indicates that you need to do some reading and writing. However, the task is redundant to the directions. They say almost the same thing, except the directions are a lot more specific. So we suggest that you skim or maybe skip the task and go to the directions. So if you scroll down the task, you will find the directions. And the directions for beginning will give you a better idea of what you need to do to answer the question. For the performance task, you will have to read sources. What is a source? Think of a source as a passage or an article that you probably read a lot of in class. For the SBAC, you will have to read 2 or more sources. You need to be prepared to take notes because you're going to compare and contrast source 1 with source 2 and possibly source 3. Here's an example of sources you may see on the SBAC. They are labeled by source number, followed by the title and the author who wrote the story. It is a good idea to take notes on these sources to make it easier to collect your thoughts for your writing later. A warning about sources. At the end of each passage, there is a list of sources used. Listen to the mouse. You do not need to read these. Reading them will not help you answer the question. These sources are the author's way of giving credit for information and ideas. Referencing sources in your writing. Some questions will ask you to reference sources in your answer. You can refer to sources by passage name or source number. It is easier to refer to sources by their number and helps reduce confusion and mistakes. Here is a sample question from the performance task that asks you to cite sources. The question reads, explain why it is hard to be an astronaut. Give 2 reasons, one from source 1, one from source number 2. For each reason, include the source title or number. It is easier to write as a writer and for readers to refer to sources by their source number. For example, you could write, according to source number 1, being an astronaut is not an easy job. You have to study for many years. Source number 2 says astronauts sometimes feel sick in space and need to get used to feeling weightless. The SBAC performance task has another feature for you to use. It is the dictionary. It is a green book icon on the right side of the screen, and when you type in the search bar, you can look for the definition of a word that you may not be familiar with. So a word you don't know, you can look in here. There is also a thesaurus to help you find synonyms if you want to find a similar word. The SBAC also has a note-taking tool. It's the green icon on the right side of the screen that looks like a piece of paper and a pencil. This tool sounds wonderful, but it has limits. The animals agree it is not very useful. Dog especially doesn't like it. The note tool sits in the center of the screen and covers the text and questions. You are unable to scroll through the text or write in your answer box. You also cannot draw on it. Instead, Dog suggests you use a good old-fashioned piece of paper and a pencil. On your paper, you can create a thinking map to organize your thoughts and ideas. Using paper, you can read your ideas and type in the answer box at the same time. Awesome! The SBAC also has a zoom tool. it's two green buttons on the right side of the screen. The button with a plus sign makes text larger, and the button with a minus sign makes it smaller. So here's an example before zooming, and after zooming, the text gets much larger. Be careful, it can make looking at both sides a little more difficult. If the zoom tool did not make the article large enough for you to read clearly, there is an expander tool. The expander will spread the passage across the screen, so it looks like these two arrows here. Keep in mind, while expanded, the passage will cover the questions, but you can click the button again to make it return to the size it was before. There is also a highlighter tool. Dog had trouble finding it. It looks like these three lines here. To use the highlighter, click and drag the phrase you want to highlight. It'll look like this blue bar here. Then you need to click on the button itself, those three bars, to highlight the selection. And then it will appear yellow. So while you are writing your notes, you can look back at the article for the highlighted sections of aha moments you may have had while reading. Now you have a nose for the S-Spec. Good luck, human. Make the animals proud.